Welcome everyone to Grape Finance Weekly AMA. My name is Nicky and I'm here with LB. Welcome LB.
Hey guys, thanks for listening in.
Same. I'm very happy that we still have this great community that comes here every week and asks questions every week. That's just awesome. But of course, we do have new stuff, which is the Vinium and everything. So a lot of the questions are about Vinium. But the first one is not. This is Needwen. I love this name, by the way. But LB, it seems that a barrage of regulations may be coming to the crypto space soon. What do you think those might be? And what dangers may they pose to Grape Vinium, Grape or Vinium? And would there ever be any regulation that would put you off the project entirely? So it's 3 questions, actually.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, we don't know what sort of regulations are coming. We've heard, and as well, being a global industry, a regulation is very tied to each country, unlike what crypto is, which is very international based, with no borders. So, you have it regulation, and I have no doubt that the United States will be regulating DeFi. Probably pretty hard. What they should be doing really is regulating centralized exchanges better. But what they will do instead is they will start to regulate DeFi. But you kind of already see this, you see this in certain apps, especially like perpetuals, where the UIs have a little prompt where you have to click through and sort of say, oh, I'm not from the United States or one of the OFAC countries. To use the UI. I don't know if that will actually hold up in court or anything, but I mean, technically, like it's hard, legality-wise, for the law to enforce smart contract, like to enforce people to use or not use at the smart contract level. Very hard because obviously the blockchain is supposed to be. It's like kind of one of the main points of the blockchain is that it's, permissionless, decentralized, and not under the control of any central entity, which includes the government, obviously. But I think there'll be some regulation. I think the US will be the most strict, as they are now anyway, with normal financial regulations. As you can see, a lot of if you want to provide financial services to United States citizens, even just normal financial services, this is even like Swiss banks or banks in Europe or banks in Australia or whatever, you want to provide services to the United States, well, you can't do that. You need to go and get specific United States licenses to do so. So they already make it very difficult to do normal financial stuff with the US. So it wouldn't I wouldn't be surprised if they continue that on with DeFi, which they kind of already have, but make it even worse.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Sorry, continue.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Like, of course, the US it's not possible for them to control the entirety of DeFi. It's simply not possible. Like maybe some chains can be controlled if they gather enough of, for example, that's one of the fears for ETH, right? That most of the stakers are going to be in the US, and therefore the US can control those stakers, and therefore at some point the US can make certain decisions and enforce them because the majority is now within the US. Now that's of course a danger, but it's that only happens if that is the case, that if the majority is really in the US. For example, not all the countries are in agreement about what are securities, for example. Like recently I learned that Belgium has decided that cryptocurrencies aren't necessarily to be securities unless they are specifically issued by a company, but as long as the security or the token is so not the security, as long as the token is issued by a certain code, then it's not security. Because it's not a person issuing the token, but it is a person writing code, and then that code working in a certain way, and therefore it's not a security. So that's a different opinion. And of course, Belgium isn't the largest of countries, but and also not the most influential. But it does mean that eventually we might have different opinions all over the world. And also, I mean, the US definitely wishes to control um, their own economy, or at least the currency wise. And of course, they definitely want to remain the world reserve currency, but there's a large currency war going on at the moment, or at least ongoing at the moment, or at least lots of different countries having, and lots of different central banks having their own ideas about this, and therefore their own enforcements as well. So if the US wants to control DeFi, they have to do it on the personal level, as you explained. Like they have to simply only control their own citizens, instead of they can't really regulate DeFi. They can only regulate how their own citizens will or will not use DeFi. And now that's a different issue. Of course, it can be hard to follow. I mean, as long as people, for example, use USDC, they can definitely control that. But if people are going to use USDT, for example, or something else that doesn't want to be controlled, it's going to be very hard for the US to actually control their citizens on DeFi. It's basically impossible. So regulations are difficult. I mean, of course, CeFi is easily regulated, but as my accountant recently explained to me, for Dutch law, for example, DeFi is basically an interesting way for people to put a lot of money in one pool and then decide to do something with it, which is sort of the same as going to the bar and making one pool and buying beers off of it. Like you can't really regulate that because people are just going to do that. And so it really depends on the way you look at it and what kind of country is trying to control. So there's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's going to be hard. Like they can do that. You can regulate front ends, especially if they're run by hosted services, centralized hosted services. But there are decentralized versions that are getting better and better of these things, like decentralized domains, and then DNS. You have IPFS and things like that to host front ends, and then I think that there's possibly a future where you may have a highly regulated DeFi, and then a underground DeFi, so to say.
Yeah, I can see
That's
that
definitely
happening.
possible.
Yeah, I can see that. But
Yeah.
and the difficulty is going to be the on ramp and off ramp then.
Yeah.
That's the main thing right now as well. Like I have most of my wealth on DeFi, which is not that big, but at least for me it's big. So most of my wealth is on DeFi, and therefore, but if I want to off ramp that, and if I want to make fee out of that or something else, then I probably have to go via a CeFi, or a centralized exchange. And I need to trust that those are still available and still wish to work with my banks and stuff like that. I mean, I have found a place where I can convert cryptocurrency directly into gold. Like they just accept cryptocurrency and they just send you the gold. So that's good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But it's kind of a workaround, right?
Yeah. I know
Um,
Swiss-based exchanges have the ability, the legal ability to be able to offer crypto to fiat without KYC up to certain amounts, which are
oh, really?
reasonable amounts. They're not just like $3. They're actually reasonable amounts. So that's like a good way if you're in Europe through a Swiss provider.
Yeah.
There's also
Yeah.
Bisq. I've used Bisq before, so peer-to-peer marketplace.
There are going to be ways, I think, and therefore it's going to take a while, I think, before any kind of unified attempt at regulation is going to actually have any effect. It's just that, well, maybe if you're in the US, you should take some extra care for your privacy, and maybe take some extra care about keeping your wallet anonymous.
Yeah. The US is just the worst with finance. You can see it in the tax laws. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible tax laws.
Yeah. And that's actually an issue, because the US is kind of big in crypto as well. Like, I mean, there's a lot of crypto is US clients, so that might actually be a blow to crypto. Not necessarily because then we can't use it anymore, but simply because we use the US customers, or at least a lot of them, and that would be an issue, I think. However, at the same time, of course, as I explained, these currency wars going on, more and more countries are moving away from the petrodollar, saying, for example, that they would buy petrol or buy oil and the like, or crude oil, in either gold or Bitcoin or other currencies, and therefore, especially now in Russia and other countries that don't really like the U.S. sanctions or the EU sanctions or NATO, especially, they just say, why not use Bitcoin as a means of transporting money? So. It really depends on how the world is going to change, and that's just a whole bowl of chaos, I would say.
Yeah.
But the last question was, would there ever be any regulation that would put you off the project entirely?
Not per se. I mean, it would be if there's regulation that directly affects us, we'd need to obviously, protect ourselves. So there would be, we would need to migrate or transition to something else, or even get the licensing or whatnot. You know what I mean? We would, if there's usually with the regulation there would be some okay, this is now illegal, but you can go do this if you get this license. You know what I mean? Like you pay this fee to us, basically. So
Basically bribe.
yeah. So basically, I don't think there'd be anything that would just put us off entirely. That would take something pretty drastic, like like it's actually illegal to you use any crypto or you go to jail. It's like a Chinese level law or something like that. You know what I mean? But we would just need to stay on our toes and kind of like keep aware of it, migrate, adjust, make sure we kind of navigate the space, the regulations and whatnot. So
just keep it in our sights. All right. Neat Grape is asking, hey there, little blenders. Just wondering if you could give us an overview of SAFX and Banky, and why the SAFX token was chosen for Vinium. How does SAFX safety compare to regular old AVAX? Is it all smart contracts, or is there a risk of Banky mismanaging everyone's AVAX and SAFX dropping to zero?
SAFX, if you don't know already, it's from Banky. The liquid staking, it's essentially, they run a validator and you can stake, or they run a series and you can stake the AVAX into their validators and earn the AVAX validator fee, essentially. And for that, they give you, as a receipt, they give you this SAVAX token, which is available to be redeemed for more and more AVAX over time. So it works similar to, pretty much all the other staking derivatives like the staked ETH from Lido, and all those other things, and staked Matic and all those as well, and the various. There's so many, like almost every chain that has validators that earn a yield has a liquid staking variant. It's very common and reasonably safe way of getting yield, especially if you're bullish on the coin as well. So that's what we added it, obviously, because it's the number one thing on AVAX. Really, it's staked AVAX. It's if you're bullish on AVAX, you may as well hold staked AVAX, because then you're going to get an extra yield as well. You are, there is an extra layer of risk because you are now a validator essentially, and that's going through Benki's validators, and so you're relying on them to at least run very reliable validators that don't get slashed and things like that, which they've done a very good job of. And it's the same risk that you would do with essentially staking in any validator, really.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of money in there. I'm not sure exactly. I think like 50 million or something like that. It's pretty good. Like they're definitely the number one liquid stake on AVAX. There's also Yield Yak has come out with one. It's newer, but it's Yield Yak's also a good company on AVAX. And so we may add that later on, but for now we just added SAVAX because there's obviously a lot of liquidity for SAVAX to AVAX as well. So you can essentially liquidate that coin very easily. And it's been around for a while, and it's done very well security wise as well. And Benki's a trusted partner on AVAX, and having it alongside AVAX on Vinium essentially allows you to use the you can loop the SAVAX and get essentially a leveraged yield on that. You can borrow SAVAX using stablecoin. So essentially, you're not if you think AVAX is going to go down, then you can capture the yield of SAVAX by borrowing it and not have to worry about the price going down, because you can it's irrelevant because you're paying back the same token that you just borrowed, and if it goes down, well, there's no impact. You don't actually lose anything. So that's there's a lot of cool strategies you can do with it. So I mean, SAVAX is just like a natural choice on AVAX.
Yeah, very clear. And the last part of that question was: is there a risk of Benki mismanaging everyone's AVAX and SAVAX dropping to zero? I don't think that's what they are doing. Like, they're not really managing it; they're just running a node. And of course, they can mismanage whatever, or they can make a mistake, or they can have any kind of risk going on, just as with any other contract. Really, it's just an extra layer of risk, but not necessarily a big one. What we could do, of course, is provide links on the Vinium side at some point to say, hey, this is the issuer of the token. We could do it with any token. That actually might be a good thing. Like, hey, if you want to hold this token or borrow this token or whatever, just this is the issuer, and maybe have a look there, because in the end, it doesn't. Like any kind of stablecoin also has an issuer. Any kind of token has an issuer, and all of those have their own risks or lack of risk. All right, and the second part was: are you considering adding more yielding tokens like this for other blue chip assets?
Yeah, of course. We will be adding certain LPs and whatnot as well that also are yielding. Things like GLP and things like Curve Tri Crypto. Wherever there's good yields that also have good liquidity, they're blue chips, then they're have Chainlink price feeds, so they're safe. In other words, we can put that as essentially available to leverage on the platform. I don't think there's many liquid staked variants other than AVAX on AVAX. I don't know, they wouldn't really make sense otherwise. But that's also why we want kind of Vinium to go more cross-chain as well, because then we can capture these certain tokens that are yielding tokens, liquid stake tokens, and various LPs and whatnot that are very high yielding on each chain. Because each chain has their own sort of mix of yield, and so that's kind of why we want to do cross-chain on the good chains to allow people to leverage that yield.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful goal, and I wish we reach it quickly. All right, Peter Flea has a different question. He says, "Hi fam, I see there are very little, between brackets, none, new deposits in presses. Sign of the times, I guess. Was wondering if we can still get the 350% if no new peeps join to make the circle bigger, or do the presses rely on new money? Thanks."
They rely on well, essentially your your yield comes from any action of other users. So that can be deposits or claims. So if people don't deposit and they only claim, and you don't claim, then you're actually getting getting that 10% claim fee and whatnot as a bonus on your shares. So while new deposits as well obviously helps it grow fast. It helps it grow faster. If there are no new deposits, it's still possible to get 350%. It may take longer, but it's still based on any other, any action like claim or deposit are both going to increase the price of your share, essentially increase how much you can, how much underlying LP or whatever, whichever press you're in, it increases your share price, in other words. So
yeah, this is sort of an anti pyramid situation where it's not the case that the first one to leave is the one to take the most profit. It's actually if you stay for a long while, you're getting rewards for the people leaving. So it's just movement more than new money. But of course, new people getting in would help. Clear. All right, Neat Grape says, "Hey, Large Banana. How is the Vinium timeline looking for the next month or two? Is revenue share for wine stakers on the cards for this year, or something to look forward to in 2023? Do you have a rough idea of when Vini tokens and the X-Grape pool may come into existence?" And I can add that the last question is something that I'm looking forward to so much myself.
yeah, well, the X-Grape token will come much sooner, very soon. And the Vini token will probably be next year. We are technically almost in December now, so that's like 1 month. But the Vini token will probably, when we launch on ZK Sync, and when that launches on mainnet, like proper public launch, then we'll probably do the launch of Vini, the token. And that will probably also be the time we launch revenue share, just because there's not much to distribute right now. It doesn't really make sense to do it. The gas would probably cost more to do it. So it's just, let's build it up for a little while. Right now it's in a stage where it's launched and we're letting it sort of run, and we're building the cross-train strategy at this time, and sort of the extra features as well that will make it a really unique product, so that we can kind of go full blast in one go early next year. So towards the end of this year, in December, we'll be polishing up the platform, adding in these little extra things that will make it really cool, like the leverage platform where you can flash loan leverage, deleverage, scouting out good yields on each platform, and building out our cross chain strategy as well, and the token strategy, and then really sort of blasting it early next year.
Awesome. I'm so looking forward to any of it, and I think so is me. All right. And do you have any idea, by the way, when the X-Grade pool might come into existence, or is it just going to be somewhat this month?
Yeah, it's I don't have exact date. I don't want to say an exact date just
All
yet.
right. No, clear.
But
soon.
yes,
soon trademark. All right. Chenko is saying, "Hey, Lord Barista, is that true? You coded an auto coffeeing function on your coffee machine?"
That would be good.
Yeah, that would be good, right?
Like,
So
as
in the
soon as you
morning,
wake up, like you don't even have to do anything. It's already
it's
made for
there.
you.
It's there. It reads your sleep because of maybe you have a Fitbit or something,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
it reads when you're almost waking up, and then you can wake up to the smell of coffee. That would be great. I would buy that. If you would make that, I would buy it. Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Our X-Grape Finium pool and Grape Mim nodes migration on schedule for Wednesday release.
Yeah, they will come around the same time, so that's something as well. We'll do that rough same time.
Okay, cool. What's a good percentage of borrowing from Vinium DVL to be healthy? Which percentage are we operating now? That's a difficult to say. Like, what's healthy even?
Yeah, I mean it's we want high utilization because then it means that essentially the money is being utilized, and then the depositors are actually getting a reasonable APY on that as well. But we don't want it too high so that it's kind of it gets a little bit risky almost with paying back. Allowing people to withdraw and then paying back loans and things like that. And so we want to keep probably like around if we're at stable coins, probably 80 to 90% utilization would be good if we can keep it in that range. And then for the volatile coins, you'd probably want 80% or a little bit less, like 70 to 80% probably. Because they are more volatile, and they are you want that extra buffer, so to say, for those volatile coins. But right now we don't have too much borrow. I think there's a decent amount of USDC borrowed, actually.
Yeah, that's actually pretty decent. Like, it seems to be about 1/4 on each pool. That, of course, that's very, very rough. But no, and it's a bit less on the BTC I see and the Rep ETH. So people aren't really, at least they're not shorting, it seems. But yeah, it's there.
Yeah,
so see.
and I haven't adjusted I've deployed the new interest rate strategies, but I haven't added them in yet.
No.
So right now it's it's the normal interest rate strategy.
Yeah.
And then once we add more LPs and things that you can kind of more leverage, it'd be good to we will add in the interest rate strategy that allows high utilization without very high borrow APRs, which then kind of de-incentivize leveraging, in other words.
Yeah.
I
was also wondering.
Yeah.
Talking about the AVAX, as AVAX, is there any way, like I see you can trade it on Trader Joe, But is
Yeah,
there
yeah.
something like Curve or something where it's more
Platypus.
let's
Yeah, yeah. Platypus.
platypus?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
nice.
kind of like Platypus is kind of like the Curve for AVAX.
Right.
There is Curve on AVAX, but to be honest, it isn't used that much, which is kind of a shame.
Yeah.
But we will add the Curve Tri Crypto just because it's kind of
Oh,
like a
nice.
staple. It's just, it's basically a
And you say we
staple.
like
Yeah.
Finium whale.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So and it has good. It's got about 4 mil TVL, and you're getting
Mhm.
exposure to Bitcoin, ETH, and then 3 different stable coins. It's like the Tri Crypto is like the index fund almost
Yeah,
for
I
crypto.
was thinking that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And GLP is kind of
oh,
becoming like that too. Um, so with Curve Tri Crypto, you've got 2%, 2.5% yield on the fees, and then another 5% in Curve. So that's 7.5% on those tokens, which are very stable tokens. Most of the time, and you can leverage that obviously because it's very high quality capital in there. So. But yeah, you could trade AVAX, SAVAX on Platypus, same as BTC, WBTC. You can trade that on Platypus as well. And it looks like
nice.
they just added a AVAX YY AVAX, which is the Yieldjack AVAX, staked AVAX. It's lower
Cool.
liquidity, but they just
But it's
started.
there.
Yeah.
Nice. I'll definitely have a look myself, and I think some others will as well. So thanks
Yeah,
for
I
that
think
tip.
you're going to get the best
Uh,
price there. Yeah.
yeah, because usually Trader Joe just, that the way they work is not the most optimal for traders.
Yeah.
I don't like they have everything, which is good, but that's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Okay. What's Oh yeah, that was the question. Like, what's a good percentage of borrowing from Finium TVL to be healthy? So you're saying like 70% for the volatile tokens, and what did you say for the stables again?
Yeah, about 80 to 90. Say
80%.
70 to 80 for
Yeah.
volatile and 80 to 90 for stable coins.
Yeah. All right. Pretty clear.
Mhm.
Could we run through some generating fee examples on 1 million slash 10 million TVL for Vinium, assuming 60% used for borrowing? Man, that's that's a lot of calculation to ask for in an AMA.
Well, I mean, it's you can get a rough number quickly by just going, okay, the reserve factor is what the protocol earns on interest. So if we're just going to do 1 million, 60% being borrowed, 600 grand, and then it's average borrow APY is like 5%. So I mean, what's that? 5%. It's 30 grand total interest. Um, total interest.
1 million.
Yeah,
On 1 million, assuming 60%. Yeah.
600,000 borrowed. 5% interest is 30 grand, and obviously most of that's going to be paid to the interest to the depositors. So it all depends on the reserve factor. Right now, the reserve factor of each token is it's also different depending on the volatility of the token. I think stable coins are low, around about 10%, and then volatile coins can range from 20 to 30%. But we will be upping this. We'll be upping the reserve factor to 50% on all the coins because then we'll be sharing the revenue. So essentially, the reserve factor will eventually be 50%. So then that's half of the interest. So then that's 15 grand on that. So that's not 600 grand. being borrowed at 5%. And then, you can multiply that for however many times you want, based on TVL. That's a 1 million TVL, which is pretty low for lending platforms. And as well, we're kind of more of a leverage platform as well, where borrow rates will be high, and the percentage may be high too. We want to keep it low so that it makes sense for people to leverage, but there's a good balance between there's a good balance between high utilization and high interest. In other words, so you want to have high utilization with decent interest, but not too high.
Yeah. Like you want high or at least decent interest so that people still want to collateralize or put up liquidity, and you want it low so that people actually use it. Yeah, there's a balance there. That's clear, but it just needs to be fair, and then it gets used.
Yeah.
All right. Are there any plans in the roadmap for having over-collateralized tokens for Vinium, such as YUSD or MIM?
Yeah, there is. Not concrete plans or anything, but some ideas that would, because it works really well with the lending platform. Obviously, all platforms where you do borrow a stablecoin, it is a lending platform. Like what Yeti's a lending platform, Abracadabra, but they're specific platforms for that. Whereas but a lending platform works really well for it because you can't borrow the coin without being over collateralized. So it's works really well in that regard. And you can allow lower interest on that token, and then it works very well for leveraging. In other words,
yeah.
But yeah.
It's actually what as you've explained it to me, or as what you've said before, is that anything that really has a decent amount of liquidity, so that liquidations can happen, could be a good candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's basically it. I mean, it needs to be at least somewhat decent. Like, needs to be a decent project. And not a rug waiting to happen. But other than that, as long as it's got good liquidity, there's no real reason to keep it away from Vinium, right?
Yeah, liquidity is very important because obviously, we need to do liquidations. If we do, there needs to be good liquidity. Otherwise, there could be too much price impact to liquidate, which means then you can't liquidate, and then means, well, now you've got bad debt. And that's a problem. And as well, more liquidity means it's much harder to manipulate the price, which is another issue with lending platforms. If you can manipulate the price, well, then you can borrow a lot more than fair value, and then you can basically siphon funds out from the platform. So liquidity is a good safety measure for that.
Yeah. All right. We're moving on to the AMA live chat, where some people are also don't know. People are really upping the quality of the questions. Good stuff. All right. First is Endless Rainbows asking, will the presses continue to drip out rewards until you have 350% ROI, as long as you have shares pending to claim?
They will. Yeah, they will. The shares will continue to increase in value for as long as they stay in the pool, and as long as people, I mean, if you're the only person in the pool, well, then there is no rewards coming to you. In other words, you may as well just claim. But as long as there's other people in the pool, at least, then their claims will boost your share value, and any deposit will boost your share value as well. So you can stay in the pool for as long as you want, really. And if you get to 350% ROI, you can compound to kind of increase your length in the pool. in other words. So you can stay in the pool indefinitely.
Clear. Moving on to Neat Grape saying, will Vinium or Grape be doing on or off ramp stuff?
Not us specifically. Like we won't have a service for it because then we need to do KYC. We're going to need a company to do the regulations for it. Then we need licenses in each jurisdiction. We're going to have on and off ramps for. It's a lot. But what we will do is we will integrate some platforms that do that already. If you want to do it, just so it's a nice little feature to kind of instantly on and off ramp from fiat to Vinium straight away. And there's a lot of cool plugins and widgets and services that already do this. So there's no need for us to reinvent the wheel in that regard.
There's Endless Rainbows as a follow-up question that I'm putting forward. Like, what about the people that have claimed all of their shares? Aren't they out until they deposit more?
Yeah, they are out. Yeah, I mean, but you won't see anything on the dashboard. Like, if you've claimed all your shares and you go to the dashboard, there'll be zero. So you'll know when it's. And the dashboard should show you information about that, how many shares you have pending, how many shares are available to be claimed but still in the pool, and that's out of like your total shares as well. So, that's all in there. If someone's claimed all their shares, then they're not earning anything anymore, obviously.
Yeah. I'm gonna wait a little bit. Maybe Endless Rainbows is gonna push enter because he's asking, obviously, one more follow-up question. And otherwise, I'll move on. While waiting, while he's typing, I'm saying that Neat Grape says that linking the issuer tokens on Vinium and token contracts would be amazing, because it would stop people from getting phished by fake links. It's actually a pretty nice thing that can be done by simple user interface aspect. It's just front end adding some links. Wouldn't be too hard, right?
The issuer tokens, like which ones? Like, what do you mean, like BTCB or the Vinium
for
version
example,
of it?
if you're next to or under or wherever it's nice, next to the tokens, you just put a link of the issuer of whomever is collateralizing it, or making sure that, for example, with MIM you would put a link to Abracadabra. With USDC you would put a link to Circle. With USDT you would put a link to Tether. So that people can just do their own research and see whether they even want exposure to that token. Or maybe if they don't trust the token at all, they just borrow the hell out of it, right? Because
yeah,
if it depegs, it's easy to buy back.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wish I had a large load in UST earlier.
Yeah.
So that's actually an idea, just to have some so that people can do their research easily. Endless Rainbows has finished. So you are guaranteed 90%. After the 90%, you will have to gather the remaining shares over time as people deposit and claim.
Yes, yeah, that's true. And then because there's a time from when you deposit to when you get 90% back, over that time as well, you're still earning the other people's yield. So by the time you actually get to all your shares back, you've probably already earned over 90%, because of that. In that time, people have deposited, they've claimed, which has boosted your share value.
Right. Okay. Neat Grape makes it more clear. Like, for example, if I want to make SAVAX, then they actually go to Banky, because that's the issuer, instead of makefreeSAVAX.com. Like, people, it's easy if you don't know where the token comes from. It's easy when you're just doing a Google search to just get scammed, simply because you don't know who the actual issuer is. So it might really help. Okay. While there's some typing going on, I'm moving up to Sacomano or Sacomano. I don't really know how to say that. Saying hello, LB. Thank you for the hard work you continue to do for all of us. Yeah, I second that. More than a question, I would like to make suggestions to improve the Grape project. I think the greatest improvement for the platform is to link the various services offered to the repurchase of the Grape token to make it reach the PAG again. I think the rewards for the help tickets should be continued on certain dates over time. Perhaps by paying in wine tokens until the pack has been reached. This could give more continuity to the project, making it feel more solid and secure over time. Each new service of the protocol should also give benefits to those who own wine NFT, I think winery NFT, to reward those who are in the project from the beginning and fortify community sentiment by discouraging degen sharks. Aren't we already doing a lot of that?
We are proposing to share revenue, but I think people need to be realistic about revenue targets and what actually generates revenue. And I think a lot of people from the bull market have been spoilt by Time Wonderland and things like this, which are like 1,000% a day. Wow, I can earn I can earn even just 1% a day is absolutely insanity, ridiculousness. Like you are not getting, no one's giving you 1,000% at 1% a day without inflation.
1,000% a day was I think a bit. I don't know who offered that. Maybe
Yeah,
Ragnarok or something, or S Dog or whatever it was, Snow
yeah.
Dog.
Yeah. So you know how it is. It's like we can earn a lot more revenue, as I say, like in quotation marks, with a token, because the token is minted out of thin air, so it's free. In other words, but service money from a service is a different thing. It takes it's a lot less than money printed out of thin air. So we need to get back to peg. We'd need to buy back a lot. Several $100,000 worth. And I think that idea, if we just buy it back, we're going to get eaten. Like, is it really the best use of revenue money from the platform to buy back a token for people to dump into again? I don't know.
Yeah. And no, that's kind of the thing. I think that to get back to PAG, what we require is for people to trust, and to have so much trust in the protocol that they want to buy back again. And essentially, even though, for example, I personally have a lot of trust in Grape Finance getting back to PAG at some point, I've no idea when, right? So I don't, I would not allocate my entire spendings right now to Grape Finance. I don't think anyone would, unless you don't have anything to spend your money on. But this trust thing is important. So, for example, if you trust Grape Finance to get back to PAG eventually, you might just start DCAing, and I think that's actually a good thing. And I think if people just do that instead of trying to take profit off of a protocol that is way under PAG at the moment, then we would eventually just get back. And the revenue buybacks, I think that's sort of, that then it would be the protocol trying to up the token, and then of course it might be
it may, like, it works all right for like a fixed supply token. It's something like a fixed supply token, in other words, that you buy back, and that's the revenue share. In other words, the revenue share is not in USDC or something. It's in using the revenue to buy back the token and give that token to stakers and whatnot. That works best more in like a fixed token supply, because if you have an inflationary token supply, well, then you're just buying in the inflation, and you kind of lose out.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, anything like fortify community sentiment by discouraging degen sharks. I think if you make protocol buybacks from the revenue, then you're actually encouraging degen sharks. So then just aim for that to buy to sell against it. That's what I wanted to add into that. It's just my personal view on that. Neatwen saying, hey guys, whilst agreeing that a hype campaign isn't appropriate for Vinium, this is a continuation of a discussion from the previous AMA, I think that after an initial word of mouth period, the project should be promoted and connections should be made with the non-degen crypto space. We can have the best product in the world, but if the right target audience doesn't know about it, it might never reach its potential. Is there a plan for such a thing after or at the same time as word of mouth?
Look, when we say a hype campaign, it doesn't mean like we do zero marketing, It just means like, we're not going to do some bullshit marketing. And of course, we'll make connections with other non-degen, technically degen, but not like, Ponzi degen groups and, aggregators and other projects and things like that. Like that's, obviously we're definitely going to be doing marketing. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. And the specific plan for it, I think is irrelevant at the moment, or do you want to say anything on that?
Well, it's, it aligns more when we kind of finalize the phase 2 with all leveraged strategies, and then with the cross-chain expansion as well. Because then it's more like, we have a wider product that's kind of been around for a little while as well. And then, we have some more reach in that regard.
Yeah. Neatgrape says, when you say cross-chain for Vinium, just to be clear, will people be able to deposit on one chain and then borrow a token on a different chain with that cross-chain collateral? Or will they be
That would
different?
that would definitely be nice. That's something that we'd like to work towards.
Yeah. This is really hard, because, I would say, right? Because then to do that, the protocol would need to have, I don't know, would need to be able to have it would need to have a lot of liquidity on each chain. We basically have to be our own bridge in such a way, or something like that. I mean, I've thought about it a little bit, but I didn't come very far. So it would be a wonderful feature.
Yeah,
But
I mean, there's a couple
even,
ways. Yeah, it's difficult though. Yeah, there's a couple ways, and each way has their own like trade-offs and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely something we're looking into.
Yeah. Like that would be great, though. I mean, even Aave doesn't have that, so it would be awesome. Neatone says this might be an how long is a piece of string kind of question, but are you able to give us a vague idea of what sort of monthly revenue could be expected per million TVL? Yeah, that has been answered. Like, for example, per million, assuming 60% borrowed, would come to about 30K of revenue, and then of course some of that would be distributed to wine stakers, and that was earlier said to be around 50%, so it would be 15K sent to wine stakers. Now this is all, just vague accounting, because you don't know if it's going to be 60% borrowed, you don't know if it's going to be 1 million. It's just some examples, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Neat Grape, could you talk us through more of the new interest rate strategies coming in? I've created a whole series of videos on that, and they are in the final stage of editing, and they will soon be uploaded. With the final stage of editing, I mean they have all been edited and created. It's just that Dave has given me and B and of course LB, if he even wants to say something about it, which he usually doesn't. But one final thing about it, like, hey, does anything needs to be changed still, or can they be uploaded? So this is actually coming. I will talk you through a lot of the strategies coming up. I have 10 different use cases that I'm going to be explaining. Of course, some of them are similar, but in the end, they're all use cases. So, and of course, if you can think of more, then maybe we'll add them later. But so far, this is coming. Now let's see what we've already answered. Need Grape's trying to think of grape questions. It's all Vinium. Yeah, but Vinium is new, right? So it's not bad. Long term, do you think grape will stay stable around $1 with small fluctuations, or do you expect big swings under or over with a rough $1 average over long time periods? And when we do get back to back, do you have any idea? Do you have an idea? What do you want the inflation rate to be? I think the inflation rate is set, right? You can't really choose that anymore.
I can adjust that.
You can adjust.
Yeah, I can adjust it. And I think it would be based on the strategy going forward and how we structure Grape as well. Because there's a few different ways we can go about it. Maybe being hard pegged or more sort of more algorithmic based. So there's a couple different ways, and so it's hard to say exactly right now. And it's hard to say, price wise anyway. But
yeah,
it depends on the strategy where we want to take it, and that also depends on the rest of the product suite that we're going to release out with Vinium and how Grape can integrate with that really nicely. So yeah, a couple of things to think about.
Yeah, and it's definitely hard to state what it's going to be around $1 with small fluctuations or more volatile. I personally think that the larger we get, the more stable it will get, and that is the simplest way of looking at it. Because, for example, if a lot of people have X grape, then that means there's a lot of grape MIM liquidity, and therefore the stability is high. And if there's not a lot, then each trade will reflect very largely on the price. Okay. Yeah, Chenkol says it was already answered. F3 Oxide wants to know if there are any thoughts on creating a perpetual DEX style offering.
Yeah, I have thought about this a lot. I like him. It's a very competitive industry, and it needs to be really good. But an issue with essentially all protocols is liquidity, and so something I'm thinking about is how to utilize liquidity in multiple platforms in one go. Because if we can do that, then we can make really efficient platforms. So I would like to create a perp DEX and then tie it into the liquidity that we have, because it would be really good then. But they're just thoughts at the moment.
I think with that we've come to the end of the actual questions. I put something like I don't think we can get to all the questions right now, but then I read them. And I see that it's just a discussion going on. So a lot of people discussing about numbers.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to say is, of course, that these videos are coming up. That's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing to mention is that we're going to be in the MDB AMA coming Tuesday. I think I'll probably put out an announcement before we actually go. It's going to be at least Nick and me in that AMA. I don't know if you're coming as well, LB.
I don't think I'll be there for that one. It's just like it's such a weird time. It's like
For you,
7
yeah.
a.m., 7:30 a.m. It's like the time where it's just just too late for me to stay up post, but it's also because I stay up too late. It's like too early for me to go to sleep. Too early for me to wake up. It's like that weird time.
Yeah, it's 8:30 p.m. UK time. So for me, that's 9:30. That's easy, and for Nick, it's during the day, so he can attend as well. It's only going to be 15 minutes. We'll discuss Vinium a bit. We'll discuss Grape a bit probably, and I mean, as much as we can cram into 15 minutes, we will. It's because it's because the MDB the MDB community specifically wanted to invite us, which I think is really great. That's why they're coming to us. So yeah, of course we're going to oblige by being there. MDB, for those people who don't know it, it's a protocol. It's either called $1 Million Baby or Make DeFi Better, and I think they will, find some other ways to use their abbreviation. They have a couple of tokens. They each do their own thing. You can check it out if you want, of course. So the protocol is Make DeFi Better. The token is $1 Million Baby. Yeah, well, okay. So so that's what it is. Thanks, Neat Grape. They do give degen yields still, I think. So let's see how
they're decent. The LP is probably the best.
Yeah, how they'll hold up in the bear market. And so far, they're doing pretty well, actually. So I don't know. Might be a really good thing. That was what I wanted to say. Do you have anything else you want to add? Like any kind of alpha or other good stuff?
I think I don't want to give too much away because it was sort of kind of thinking about a couple of things. But most of what we know has kind of already been said.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty pleased we're over 50K on Vinium. Actually, that's the DAO hasn't put anything in yet. When we introduce the LPs, because then you can borrow using that. So that's 50K with not much with no token incentives as well. And that shows really great trust in the platform and in us, which is really good to see. And we also haven't really done any sort of like a big launch or anything sort of like that. So it's really good to see. We're pretty underground, but that means we're have a lot of room to grow here, which is really cool. So there'll be a lot of cool things coming up where with Vinium and Grape tying in together with that. So we're coming to the end of this year, but next year will be pretty full on. Actually, we'll be pretty good. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Like there's so much going on right now, and I wonder when the markets will turn, of course. But other than that, I love the fact that all the while we've kept on building, and that we keep on building, and I've got a good feeling about all of this, and yeah. See you all next week. Oh, about next week, it might be, Sunday might be hard for me, but I'm coming back to that.
All right, we can, we'll discuss that. No worries.
Yeah. All right. See you all, lovely crew. Stay awesome, and until next time.
Thanks everyone for listening. See you next week.